This is the walkthrough video for PCTC 2020-2021 round 2 question 8 ASCII art. Okay, so this question seems pretty simple because all we're doing is we have to create this 20 by 20 canvas, and then we're given a series of instructions on what to paint on this canvas, where we just take the coordinate and replace that coordinate with a character, and the character is given to us. Now, the reason this question is actually a bit difficult is because it says we only want to print off the minimal bounding box, which contains all the characters on the plane. So you can see an example input. We're not actually printing off the whole 20 by 20 canvas. We're only printing off all of the x and y coordinates, where the min and the max x and the min and the max y coordinates that we're printing off represent the largest and the smallest coordinates that kind of contain our special characters. So we're printing off as little of the canvas as possible, and that's where it gets difficult. The way we're going to now deal with this is we're going to store all of our special characters in a dictionary, where the key is going to be the x and y coordinates, and the value of our thing in a dictionary is going to be the character at that location, or the special character at that location. So let's create our canvas. Let's call it canvas. It's going to be empty list dictionary. And then for as many times as our first input, we want to keep on taking new inputs. Let's do a for loop. So for I in range int input, we want to keep on taking inputs. And let's split our inputs on the space, and let's unpack that input. So the first value of that input is going to be x, the second value is y, and the third value is c, the special character. So let's do x, y, and c is going to be equal to that input. And since x and y are both coordinates, let's convert those into integers, and c we obviously just keep as the string. And now we can add this to our canvas dictionary. So the key, as I said, is going to be a tuple of the coordinates x and y, and the value at this item is just going to be the character. And boom, that's just like that. By the end of this code, we've now created this dictionary called canvas that takes in all of our instructions and stores the correct character at that coordinate. Now this will also kind of what's going to say, it accounts for this statement in the question, where basically we are indeed overwriting any position. So you can see an example, for example, 4 minus 2 is initially set to C, and it's overwritten to E. And our code will do that just because Python's, like, our code doesn't check to see if there is already a character at that position. It just sets that position to that character. This does the overwriting for us. Now, let's figure out what the values of the bounding box are meant to be. What's the minimum x, the minimum y, the maximum x, and the maximum y values of our bounding box going to be? So to do that, let's extract all of the x values. So to find the minimum x, let's extract all of the x values that have a special character. So that's going to be from canvas.keys, we want to take in our chords, so our coordinate at that point, so chords for chords in that, and our x value in particular is going to be the first element in this tuple of chords. And then what we want to do to find the minimum value of x, well, we can do min of that, and this will just generate or give us the minimum value of x, and we can call that min x. And we can do the exact same thing but for max x. So we're going to call that max x, and instead of calling the minimum x coordinate, we're going to try and find the maximum one. And of course we can do the same thing but for all of the y coordinates. So we have to make sure to change the index here to 1, because the y coordinate is the second element in our key tuple, so we need to ensure that we do call the second element. So now we've got all of the bounds for our bounding box. Now we can actually print everything off. So let's do so we have to do it rows first. So for row in range min y all the way to max y plus 1, because remember, max y represents the last row where a special character is placed, and so we need to ensure that our range statement goes up to and includes max y. And we can do the same thing for columns. So column from min x all the way to max x plus 1. Awesome. Now let's start building up each row. So let's say that our current row, so let's say cur row is going to be an empty string up here, and then for each of our columns we're going to add something to cur row to slowly build up the row. And what are we adding? Well, if there is something in canvas, we want to add that special character. If that specific coordinate is not in canvas, we just want to add a dot, a period sign. And so we can do this cool thing called get. And essentially, if we take our dictionary, which is called canvas, we do dot get, and then in the brackets, we can put two values in. So the first value is what we actually want to get. So what do we want to get? We want to get the coordinate. So the coordinate of our current location is going to be column, which is the x value, and then row. And then you can put a second argument or parameter, whatever it's called, in the brackets, and this will be the default value that's given to us. So essentially, if Python cannot find a key that's equivalent to that in our dictionary called canvas, it won't error out like it usually would. It will give us the value that we're going to now write in here, which is going to be a period sign. And so by doing this, we kind of ensure that we don't error out, and then we can very efficiently find our next character that we want to add to our current row. And finally, once we've finished that for loop and built up our entire current row, we can print off current row to the screen. Now, if we were to run this, I think there'd probably be an issue, because if you look very carefully in the question, it says that x is kind of like the bottom left of our canvas. So x minus 10 is the bottom left of our canvas. And x minus 10 is from the left, and plus 10 is on the right. And that's good. That's how Python works. But y minus 10 is at the bottom, and plus 10 is at the top. So we start counting at the bottom as opposed to the top. And that is a slight issue, because as you can see here, we only get 4 out of 10. And the reason for that is because we have the wrong answer. We have a wrong answer because we are printing things off in the wrong direction, essentially. So how do we ensure that we print things off in the correct direction? Well, we need to print off the rows from bottom to top as opposed to top to bottom. So let's actually change the range values that we're putting in here. So let's start at max y, and then let's end at min y. But we need to ensure we go one further, just because Python. So we do that. And because we're going from a bigger number to a smaller number in our range, we need to add an increment value of -1. And this should now work, because as we already discussed, rows is, according to the question, our x values are as you'd expect in Python, but our y values, they're flipped. We start counting from the bottom and not the top, whereas Python starts counting from the top. And so all we do is we just flip them here on line 15. We flip the order in which we're printing stuff out, and that should get us 10 out of 10. To elaborate a little on why this works is that we're actually storing the correct coordinate and the correct character of each coordinate up here. And so the only issue that we're having is we're just printing stuff off in the wrong order. Like, we're storing all the correct information, we're just printing off the rows in the wrong order. So now if we print off the rows in reverse order, then we adhere to the coordinate system that they've given us.